In this week's Parshas Bo, we have Choshech preceding the final yaakov Makas Bachoros, the smiting of the firstborn. And in the plague of Choshech, we are told that Moshe was instructed by Kadosh Baruch Hu to stretch forth his hand to the heavens. V'hi Choshech al eretz Mitzrayim, and darkness would descend upon the land of Egypt. V'yomesh Choshech, and Choshech would be palpable, as it were. What does it mean for darkness to be palpable? So the Psukim continue and they tell us that once the darkness had descended, lo ra'u ish esochiv, no single Egyptian was able to see anyone else. Lo komu ish mitachtav shloshes yomim, nor was anyone able to move. And Rashi understands this as referring to 2 periods of 3 days within the Makkah of Choshech. For the first 3 days, nobody could see each other. For the second 3 days, not only could they not see each other, but even would they have desired to come closer to one another, it was impossible. A person who was standing couldn't sit, a person who was sitting couldn't stand. Whereas for Klal Yisrael, there was light abounding. What does this mean? Perhaps it means as follows. Death was palpable. In what way? When a person is confined, whether it be to a cave, to a trap, to a barracks, to a hospital bed, and a person feels thoroughly distanced from everyone else because everyone else is up and about living life. Everyone else has a sense of freedom, a sense of health, a sense of well-being and welfare. When that person feels that there's no longer any kind of communication, I have so little in common with anyone else, and no one could really see, let alone feel my pain, and no one can help me. But moreover, when a person is in such darkness and he doesn't see any light at the end of the tunnel, he can't see anyone else, he can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. But more often than not, he still says to himself, well, if I change my position, maybe I could do something that can breach this hole of darkness. Maybe if I stand up instead of sitting down. Maybe if I sit down instead of standing up. Maybe I could be able to escape what I'm feeling. But if the second 3 days of darkness was such that no position could be altered, and the person who was standing up couldn't even change his position to sitting down, and the one who was sitting couldn't stand his position to standing up, well, then not only does he feel that he can't see the end of the tunnel and he cannot possibly escape the darkness which is engulfing him, but he doesn't even have a plan B or a plan Z. There's nothing whatsoever that he can change. And I believe at that point, we come to what the Ramban speaks about. Ask the Ramban, if it was dark, why didn't they light any candles? If you're in a pitch black house and electricity goes out, you stumble your way through the kitchen, you find that box of matches, and you could strike and light a candle, says the Rambam, because that darkness that was palpable was the darkness that was able to enwrap the people to the degree kasher b'chol ha'chafiros ha'amukos u'b'chol makomos ha'choshech ha'atzum la'iskayim haner. There was no possibility of a light burning because there was no oxygen, as it were. V'chein ha'ovrim b'harei choshech lo ya'amad lahem shom haner. You could be found in a place where there's not sufficient oxygen for a candle to burn. And if that's the case, why then it must have meant that the people were gasping their last. They felt that they were at the end of the road. They had no communication or relation with anyone else. They couldn't see their way out of the tunnel, any light, and they couldn't change positions. And no doubt they started to hyperventilate. And they started to gasp for life. And we know that when one is in the throes of death, the breathing becomes more labored, harsher, harder, more staccato, sometimes heavier, and sometimes quicker, sometimes slower, but always gasping for oxygen. The Teyav Chal Shemai v'Choshech al Eretz Mitzrayim V'yomesh Choshech. Right before Makas Bechoros, when the doors of Egypt are flung open, the Egyptians are smitten with a palpable fright and presence of death. Gasping for life without oxygen. No air, no light. No communication, no relationships, no altering of positions, no plans. And when that happens, why, of course, they're ready to say to Paro, game is over. Let Klal Yisrael leave. Have a wonderful Shabbos.